Happy Friday, y'all. August 1st. Welcome. Hope all is well. I'm really just here to share the government's response to that ridiculous bail request, okay? As well as King Combs did an interview with Billboard. I came across that this morning, so we'll look at that. I haven't even looked at it, so we'll look at that together. But in the meantime and in between time, let me know if you can hear me. I need a sound check. Give me a 1. Okay. Thank you, Wang. I see y'all coming in. Let's let the algorithm do this thing. This is going to be interesting, though, because I'm very curious to see what does King Combs have to say. And they did say something like, "Oh, yeah, what does he have to say about his father's situation and this and that?" I'm sure it's going to be some bullshit, but yeah, let's check it out. So in the meantime, I'm going to play a little bit of music so we can give time for the algorithm to do what it do. And then I'll be right back. If you're in the replay, go ahead and skip ahead a few minutes if you wanna. This is my son in the red, P. Corleone with a K, and his boy JTA. This is actually his boy song, and my son featured on it. Okay, he raps, in case you didn't know. And damn well. But this is a song that is on request, child. I see you, Nia. I'll adjust that. But yeah, so let's get into this. Give us a few minutes to get back. If you're in the bushes, and especially if you are on the chat, hang tight. Don't go nowhere.
Fendi out of Gucci at a ball game. 90, 20, 50s, 100s, shit at ball game. Going stupid in the lamb with the top down. I've been running for a decade, I won't stop now. No price sticker, rockin' ball main, ice dripper. Licking on me, shorty, know that I'm a nice tipper. You be creeping on the gram, bitch, I get her. Yeah, she fucking with a boss, I'm a fly. Feeling like I'm big, you better give me the loot. Feeling like I'm Bishop, better give me the juice. Came in riding in the Metro by the leaving the coupe. You can miss me with the bull, boy, don't get it confused. I got 20/20 vision and a pot of pissing. Coming for your dinner with my juice, with my chicken. I need everything. I've been hungry from the start. I need everything. Run the juice, run the car. I need everything. I need everything. Balenciaga, YSL, get them Fendi things. I need everything. I need everything. Not a little, not a lot. I mean everything.
Point the pistol at him, take the money out the register. New bitch look like Sierra, it's apparent I done leveled up. No Yaves, it's Ferrari, pusher started when I rev it up. My slimey's right behind me and beside me, fuck a fair one, You gon' get it, ho, if you don't give me everything. Married to the game, flipped a rock and bought a wedding ring. Shit that I be rocking out of stock, on top I better be. If I ever flop, I'm blocking pockets out your pair of jeans. Look, don't stare at me, spend everything on Beverly. Rarely there's a nigga out there spitting who ain't scared of me. Invited me, I missed it, hit DK, she do the scheduling. My exes so regretted, bitch, I'm on the big and
better things. Oh, I keep forgetting to log in. Okay, well, let's move on, child. I love to play me a good Kendrick instrumental. Love it or hate it. Yes, baby. I can't say it again and enough. Happy Friday. Yes, where my kids at? Child, I want to thank everybody for your patience and for being here. I know I have been gone for a minute. I needed that break, man. But I'm back and we're here live and I'm excited. I'm excited to be here because I'm happy to be alive, child. I can't say it enough. All right. So my warriors and my chosen ones who popped in, I want to say what's going on. Wow, Wayne. Yes, Michelle, Black Letter Law. What's going on, my people? Miss Sunshine to you. I saw you as well. Miss Juti. Hello, hello, beautiful. Nia X, what's going on? Why do you make me laugh so fucking much? Girl, she's I don't know how your son is in real life famous. You know what? You know why? Because when they say your rejection is your protection, there were so many different things that we have encountered. I could actually this is a movie, our journey in this music scene here. Man, I could just tell you some things, but I'm gonna just say only by God's grace, child. And I'm saying that because I know that if he did go certain routes and did become that guy, he'd be soulless. No soul. Okay. We had to save the soul, child. Anyway, but he's still doing music. He's about to go to the studio. We're doing another video. I mean, we're still doing our thing. So just listen. If you love it, tune in, baby. So I'm here today, as promised. Yes, a few, girl. Yes. Anyway, from your fingertips to God's ears, eyes. All right. So I'm here today, as promised, coming back with what the government had to say about that bond request that was submitted a few days ago with a lot of gall and a lot of balls. But as promised, or as expected, should I say, on my part. So they responded 7-page ass whooping or rebuttal, however, but we're going to get into that. And then also I came across this interview. I guess it was posted this morning. Billboard posted an interview with Christian King Combs. And we will read it because it's not a video. It's like a magazine interview where they have the question in black and bold and the answer. So we're going to get into that. And I'm keeping it cute, really light today on this Friday. So yeah, let's start with, I just want to go ahead and start with this response. All right. From the government. All right. Let's get this together. Of course, there's a trash truck coming by. Okay. So the prosecutors, I'm pretty sure they were prepared to put together a response to some bullshit like this. So we talked about it here, the bail request, and how it was chock full of, that was the acquittal request. See, there's two motions in play right now. The bond request came first. Then they went ahead and decided to file a motion for an acquittal. an acquittal, or if not an acquittal, a retrial, and only on the Mann Act charges. Okay, so there's been no response to that so far, but the judge, with regard to the bond request, gave the government till July 31st, which was yesterday, to respond to this. And they did. And I swear it was almost midnight by the time they did. By the time I saw this on Twitter, it was like 11:30 at night. Okay, so they got it in the last minute on the deadline. But let me pull up the actual document. TMZ, they wrote about it, but they pull everything from the document. I just want to have that up so we know what we're talking about. So this was filed last night. Like I said, it's 11 pages. I'm not going to read through the whole 11 pages. We're going to read the most important points. And of course, I'm going to start off with their introduction here. Okay, so dear Judge Subramanian, despite this court's clear ruling that the defendant must be detained pending sentencing following his conviction on 2 felony counts, the defendant moves again for bail. As the court correctly found after written and oral submissions by the parties on July 2nd, 2025, the defendant's detention pending sentencing is mandatory. There are no exceptional circumstances justifying his release. And even if there were, the defendant cannot demonstrate by clear and convincing evidence that he is not a danger to the community. Further, following the court's unambiguous ruling, the defendant now seeks relief without even attempting to demonstrate a reason for reconsideration. Because the defendant's motion fails to demonstrate any of the required showings, he fails to carry his burden, and the motion should be swiftly rejected. Okay? So the first point they make is that the defendant has presented no reason for the court to reconsider its detention ruling. Like, you haven't given us nothing. The defendant asked the court to reconsider its July 2nd ruling that the defendant must be detained pending trial, but fails to even address the proper standard for a motion reconsideration, let alone meet it. The court properly denied the defendant's request for bail on July 2nd, and the defendant has failed to present any reason for the court to reconsider its ruling. The court should deny the defendant's motion on that basis alone, but there's more. First of all, there's applicable law. Okay, there's already laws in place to say your ass can't get out. So they know that as they note a case, United States versus Oleta, 1988. Okay, and I'm just looking for. I don't want to really read all the legal stuff, as you should know. But I'll just say, so they say in this particular case, the judicial, the Bail Reform Act is, and then they say, in quotes, silent on when or if a district judge may consider his or her own detention order pending sentence. Okay. The judicial officer may at any time amend the order to impose additional or different conditions. So they're citing a bunch of different cases to back up what they want to say here, argue. And they said that there's a strict standard for reconsideration here, and you haven't met it. And they cite the local rule 49.1. They say that these types of motions, this motion for reconsideration, it will generally be denied unless the moving party can point to controlling decisions or data that the court overlooked. Matters, in other words, that might reasonably be expected to alter the conclusion reached by the court. Also, are they also addressing the retrial here too? Let me see. If they're addressing both things, because this seems like they're not just addressing bond here. Okay. Hold on. Okay, I'm going to have to look at something real quick because I want to make sure I don't want to give out misinformation. Because I heard somebody else. I'm not even going to tell y'all who it was because you probably heard it because it's the biggest person that's covering this on YouTube. But they said the judge actually denied the bond. And I'm like, what? So I had to go back to Pacer, and the person was referring to this government response, but they were explaining it as if it was coming from the judge. And I'm like, oh no, that's not okay to do that. You're basically saying the judge hasn't made his order yet. This is just the government responding. The government is always going to respond, or or vice versa, before the judge has an order. So with that being said, I don't want to follow in that person's footsteps and give out false information. So give me 1 second. Oh, you want me to do a little short? Yeah, I can do that of the motion. Well, I can tell you. Basically, they just reiterated some things from past Bell motions, but they threw in the fact that he wasn't found guilty on the RICO. He's just being charged with prostitution. And nobody gets held for bond after conviction for prostitution pending sentencing. He's the only one. And they also said he's not a flight risk, nor is he dangerous. And I think the government's letter, that's what, let me make sure that's what this is addressing, because I swear they referred to the actual filing that they are responding to. Okay, so it says, response to motion. Oh, it is responding. This one is responding to the release. Okay, so this one is not about the bond. This one must have, I didn't even see this. I don't realize that. Okay, hold on 1 second. Motion for acquittal. So this is the response to that. Motion for release. Okay, they must have put in the same letter. Oh, yeah. Also, letter motion addressed to judge from Mark Ignifilo, dated 7/29, request for release on conditions. Okay, so this letter is responding to both of these motions. My bad. Okay, well, that's good. So they basically like, listen, we're going to handle both of them ridiculous filings in the same letter. Okay, so let me open the letter back up. So initially what they're talking about is the request for reconsider his ruling. Okay. The detention ruling, though. So this is for the bond. Okay. So it says the defendant has failed to meet the strict standard. Okay. And part of that is because there's a deadline that you clearly missed, because the motion 26 after the court's July 2nd bail determination, the defendant fails to meet Rule 49 1D, which stipulates a 14-day deadline. So that tells me, I'm pretty sure they had to have known that there was a deadline on such a ruling. I mean, on such a motion, if they're going to do something like that. Why? And plus, a lot of the stuff they should have just brought up during the trial, especially for the reconsideration, for them wanting a new trial or an acquittal on the Mann Act charges. The stuff they were arguing should have been discussed during the trial. Okay, I said this before, but it just boggles the mind. They also said the defendant fails to point to any intervening change of controlling law. There's no change in the law. There's no new evidence shown, and there's no clear errors or no need to prevent a manifest injustice, and these things are required for this type of consideration. None of that is the case here. They also say the defense previously presented to the court its assessment of the defendant's risk of flight and dangerousness. Well, they say that the current motion raises no new issue that the court overlooked in that regard. They've been saying the same. Basically, you just repeating yourself and regurgitating the same shit you've been saying since your first bail request when he first got locked up months ago. I mean, at this point, I don't even know how many. I've lost count of how many bond requests there's been. Close to 10, if not 10. And they all say the same thing. Now, the only new thing they can add to it is the fact that he didn't get found guilty on the RICO. And that's where all the dangerous allegations were under. So that don't, because he didn't get found guilty. This is what they're saying. They say similarly during the bail hearing, the defense put forth the argument that it argues here with respect to exceptional circumstances, namely that the circumstances of the defendant's Mann Act convictions present exceptional circumstances warranting his release from custody. The court heard defense counsel on that point and rejected its position, finding that irrespective of any exceptional circumstances, the defendant could not establish by clear and convincing evidence that he was not a danger to the community. In addition, as discussed below, the defense raised the conditions at the MDC. Oh yeah, that was the other thing they tried to say. Oh, he needs to get out now because it's so dangerous in there. He's not safe. The guards can't be trusted. You know, all this stuff. When, according to as well the government here, you didn't even cite any specific circumstances or examples of him being in danger. Like, why? What happened to make you say this? You can't just make it a general, the general fact that the MDC is dangerous, specific to him, for a reason for him to get out. Because if that's the case, then everybody needs to be let out. You're basically saying he's better than every other person up in here, and he deserves to be free for his own safety. When everybody is human and everybody deserves to be safe. So they're saying that regarding the exceptional circumstances wanting his release, the court heard defense counsel on that point and still rejected it. And that they couldn't prove it. There's no evidence of the fact that he's not dangerous either. And then with regard to the conditions at the MDC, now they're saying the defense raised the conditions with the court prior to the bail hearing, but stated the opposite of what they now claim presents extraordinary circumstances. In quotes, they say, "I want to thank the MDC. The MDC gave us good access to him. They made it work, and Your Honor helped us out a great deal by giving us access to him." So this is something I think Agnifilo said in either his closing argument or it was somewhere, and now their government is using it against them. Like, you gonna say, oh, it's dangerous, he got to get out for his, otherwise he might not make it to. Now you also said, you put your foot in your mouth when you said that the MDC had been amazing to him and gave him access and did all these things, basically treated him special. So they say the defense cannot now claim there was an intervening change in the conditions to justify a reconsideration. Okay. So they're saying that's like a second bite at the apple. That's like some term. So at the end of the day, they say the defense has failed to carry its burden of showing controlling decisions or matters overlooked by the court. And the court should just deny the motion that of reconsidering the court's July 2nd order, because it's already been, the order's been established. It's done. He's still there. This has only been a month. It was only not even a whole month ago. And here you are again, and you missed the deadline. 14 days is all you had. Okay, so let me find, there was some other things. So the second thing they say is the defendant has failed to show any exceptional reasons. There's nothing exceptional about the defendant's Mann Act convictions, they say, because that was one of the other things they tried to argue. They say that he's basically attempting to avoid mandatory detention. He's attempting to avoid it by claiming that his prosecution under the Mann Act is somehow unique, is both incorrect and irrelevant to his motion for bail. Moreover, the defendant's arguments that the defendant faces exceptional circumstances is belied by the factual record, including multiple statements made by counsel for the defendant. There are no exceptional circumstances here, and the defendant's motion can be denied on this basis as well. Ain't nothing special about you. First, the court should not entertain the defendant's request to override the clear intent of Congress by putting aside the mandatory detention provision in favor for examining the facts underlying his conviction. They're saying it's a mandatory detention provision for this particular conviction. Okay, so they cite some case laws and quote Congress. Because it's a felony. They said that Congress did not say mandatory detention applies to only some felonies. Any felony, it says that it applies to any felony. So they try to dismiss these Mann Act charges as simple prostitution charges, or I don't know what the actual charge is for just being caught, I don't know, paying for a streetwalker versus a felony Mann Act conviction. It's a totally different conviction. I mean, it's a different charge. It's more serious charge. And they're trying to make it the same charge. They're trying to conflate those charges. They're not the same. So the third thing, there's a lot in here. I need to read this. The defendant's detention at the MDC is, they keep breaking down the fact that it's not exceptional. The detention is not exceptional, nor were the actual convictions. Now they're basically saying things have gotten better. Let's see. During the defendant's stay at the MDC, the facility has made enormous strides in increasing and stabilizing their staffing levels, improving medical services, and improving physical conditions. So they give all these bullet points of what's improved. Medicare is improved, staffing is increased, this has happened. But they say at the same time, you never gave us specific examples of why these things specifically harmed you for you to have to get out right away. Okay, so there's more case law, but mayhem and okay, the defendant perversely suggests that sweeping the jail for contraband and involving outside law enforcement agencies in doing so is somehow an admission that serious violence, mayhem, and chaos is occurring within the MDC and proves that the MDC is mismanaged and unsafe. Quite the opposite. Oh yeah, because that was the other thing. They blamed that jail sweep on the fact that the jail is so dangerous and filthy and this and that they had to do a jail sweep that included outside agencies. They couldn't even handle their own jail sweep. They had to bring in all these interagencies. So the government in their response is saying that it's actually quite the opposite. These steps were taken to improve some of the very conditions about which the defendant complains, and they have been working. Indeed, MDC is unaware of any violent incidents in the defendant's housing unit since his arrival in September of 2024. So they're basically like, he's just capping right now because he hasn't experienced any of that stuff. He might be hearing stuff, hearing stories or whatever, but himself personally has never been touched. If anything, he the one doing the touching, child. And that's me saying that. They also say it's worth noting that the defendant's bail motion is devoid of any claims that the defendant himself was impacted in any way by the conditions he alleges, like I just said. It doesn't make any specific allegation regarding his own medical care, exposure to violence, or experience with lockdowns. In fact, the motion is the first government has heard of any risk to the defendant's safety, or for that matter, any issue with the defendant's treatment at the MDC, aside from his request during trial for additional time with his lawyers. To the contrary, defense counsel has repeatedly throughout the course of this case praised the MDC for its treatment of the defendant, and they note all the places where in the transcripts. So they also say, well, they give the examples here. The MDC has been very responsive to us. The MDC has been very accommodating to us in many, many ways. And this is all quotes. I want to thank the MDC. The MDC gave us good access to him. So they're saying, you failed to bring these issues up, but now you want to use them to try to get him out as if it's some dire emergency that he has to get out because of this stuff when you never brought it up in the first place. He was on trial for a dang 8 weeks. So yeah, they're saying, given the vast improvements at the MDC, there's no finding of exceptional circumstances. They're citing more stuff, more cases. Number 3 here, in the last couple of pages of this response, the defendant has failed to show that he is not a danger or a risk of flight. He has not shown that, they say. The defendant, they say, does pose danger to others, and this is why. They say, even supposing that extraordinary circumstances could be demonstrated, the defendant fails to establish by clear and convincing evidence that he does not pose a danger to the community. As the court found less than 1 month ago, it is impossible, they put in quotes, for the defendant, having repeatedly conceded his propensity for violence at trial, to demonstrate by clear and convincing evidence that he poses no danger to any other person or the community. They note where in the transcripts they can find this. They said in quotes, defense conceded the defendant's violence his personal relationships. This is from the judge. It also has in quotes, noting that the defense, in quote, fully throated in its closing argument, told the jury that there was violence here, and domestic violence is violence. The court properly concluded that, in quotes, this type of violence, which happens behind closed doors and personal relationships sparked by unpredictable bouts of anger, is impossible to police with conditions. Okay, so they're like, this was said during the trial about this man. And yeah, you can't police. We saw what happened with the hotel video. That was behind closed doors in a sense. I mean, people might have been looking out their peepholes from their hotel rooms, and it should have been reported to the police because the security cameras and the security witnessed this stuff. But had it been at his house, we would have never seen that footage. Would have never seen it. This trial may have never even happened. None of this stuff would have happened. They say the defendant presents nothing to disturb the court's findings, nor can he. The trial record is replete with evidence of the defendant's acts of violence towards others. They say the trial record. So yeah, basically all the testimony and all the stuff we learned about him during the trial, he's a violent motherfucker. The defendant's decade-long relationship with Ms. Ventura was defined by his repeated acts of violence and abuse. And everything they claim here, they're citing the transcript. The defendant's temper and violence were unpredictable. The defendant frequently punched, kicked, and dragged Ms. Ventura, leaving her bruised and cut with black eyes and busted lips. This abuse often occurred during freak-offs, including the defendant's assault of Ms. Ventura at the Intercontinental Hotel, which was captured on video surveillance. And when they're citing where it is in the transcripts, it's not in just one place. They have like several pages, 575 to 83 here, 630 to 647 there for these same statements, which says that this stuff has been reiterated throughout the trial. Ms. Ventura and other witnesses testified to numerous acts of brutality by the defendant against her. Ooh, there's a lot of sightings for that in the transcript. In addition, the defendant was also violent towards several of Ms. Ventura's friends who witnessed his mistreatment of Ventura, including transcript, Deontay Nash, transcript citing, Brianna Banna Bongolan. Ooh, lots of from her. Carrie Morgan. The defendant was also violent toward Virginia Gina Hunn, with whom the defendant was in a relationship at the same time. And they have her cited in the transcript as well, even though she didn't testify. And then they have to reiterate the fact, he more recently attacked Jane in June of 2024. And, they're reiterating a lot of the things that he did. He kicked her door down, every door down. Every door she went through and closed behind her, he kicked it down. Smacked her in the face 3 times while she was showering, resulting in Jane losing her balance and falling to the ground. She was left with a black eye and bruising and welts on her head. The defendant, who is significantly larger than Jane, had no visible injuries from the altercation. Because remember, they were saying that he was retaliating. He was, what did they say? That she basically, as if he was trying to defend himself against her. At one point, the defense spoke to this. Under these circumstances, the defendant's claims that his violence against Jane was somehow provoked is disgraceful, they say. Moreover, the fact that the defendant committed this vicious attack just 3 months prior to his arrest, and while he was unambiguously aware that he was under federal investigation, highlights, as the court concluded, a disregard for the rule of law and propensity for violence. And more transcript notations for that statement. Now, there's something redacted here that happened that they said that was not brought up in trial. They say the defendant contends that he does not pose a danger because the trial record does not reflect acts of violence by the defendant between 2018, when he ended the relationship with Ms. Ventura, and 2024, when he viciously assaulted Jane. As an initial matter, the defendant's violent attack of Jane and his years-long proclivity towards violence against Ms. Ventura and others is more than sufficient to establish his dangerousness. But the defendant's suggestion that he went several years without inflicting violence on another person simply is not true. The defendant did engage in several acts of violence between 2018 and 2024. And then there's a big redaction, like at least close, it could be a paragraph's worth. Let me put it up here real quick while I see what y'all are doing. See, this is the redaction. Something happened and they blacked it out. Okay, I see. What's going on, Trav? Janine Peterson. I'm going to come back to your comments in 1 second. Okay. So they say whatever happened was blacked out. Then it says, although this evidence was not presented at trial, the court is free to consider it in assessing the defendant's dangerousness. See United States versus LaFontaine. And they say recognizing that proffers are permissible both in the bail determination and bail revocation context. So this is referring to a proffer, which is like the Queens for a Day, when they have somebody, like that's what got Keefe D in trouble. He did a proffer and then wrote a book as well. But he talked about how he did this and he did that with regard to Tupac's attack and murder. And now he's in jail about it because that proffer is only it's only good for, they call it a Queens for a Day because it's not immunity. It's immunity for the day, but it's not immunity forever. Okay, so they're referencing this though with regard to whatever happened and is blocked out. And there's some evidence they did not use in the trial. Now, why didn't you use whatever this evidence is? That's what I want to know. They say that, so maybe we have to look up the case law they used to define this. United States versus LaFontaine. I'm going to have to look that up and see what that's about. They said the defendant's extensive history of violence and his continued attempt to minimize his recent violent conduct demonstrates his dangerousness and that he's not amenable to supervision. The defendant utterly fails to establish by clear and convincing evidence as required that he does not pose a danger to the community. And we already know the judge believes he's a danger because he's the one that said, no, you can't get out on bail because your own attorney said you were dangerous. So he knows he's dangerous. So there and like the defense, I'm sorry, the government has said here, there's no new evidence to say that he's not dangerous, or there's nothing presented here to say anything different as to why he's not dangerous anymore after merely a month of being convicted. There's so now with regard to the flight risk, they say he's not a flight, that he is a flight risk. The defendant also fails to establish by clear and convincing evidence that he's not a flight risk. The defendant faces significant penalties for his crimes of conviction. As raised in the government's July 2nd submission, the government's initial view was that the defendant's guidelines range was 51 to 63 months. Notice they say initial view. The government is continuing to assess the sentencing guidelines and expects that the appropriate guidelines range will be substantially higher. Okay. That 51 to 63 months, I think that's what, 4 to 5 years or something like that, up to 5 years. And then they're like, nah, because I think each count holds a 10-year, it goes a max of 10 years for each. There's 2 of them. So they might want the whole 10 for each. They might raise the guidelines according to them. The government's initial view was 51 to 63 months, but we're continuing to assess because pretrial services is doing that report, which is the judge is going to highly consider as well. But that report is supposed to have all the things there to, let us know how dangerous or not is he based on what we know about him. Well, what's on record, and which it might not be a lot because he hasn't been caught doing anything. He hasn't been convicted prior to this of anything, even though he's been alleged to be guilty of a bunch of shit. And we, strongly know a lot of things that he is guilty of, allegedly. I have to keep saying that. But yeah, they're saying that they expect that the appropriate guidelines range will be substantially higher. The possibility of a substantial sentence, such as in this case, is a significant factor in assessing the risk of flight. So they're saying, they're telling us he's not a flight risk, but they haven't. Why is he not? Because he is facing a lot of time. He still, in their words, beat the RICO, and it's not life in prison. It's still a time enough to say, I'm leaving the country. I'm getting on my private plane and I'm out of here. So it says, moreover, the defendant's endless financial means, coupled with his demonstrated ability to conceal his crimes. His demonstrated ability to conceal his crimes, if that's not shade to everybody, including the judge, even though the judge wasn't the decision maker on as far as the jury goes, but the judge, to me, didn't do a lot of things he could have to prevent some of the things that ended up happening to derail that trial. And one of those things is having sequestered the jury. That jury should have been sequestered. Okay. But that's neither here nor there at this point, I guess. I hope they are investigating the jury, like I said before. It says so demonstrated ability to conceal his crimes, his past efforts to bribe security officers, and they have officers, which they have in the transcript here, because it was proven, which is why that wasn't included and checked off under the RICO box. The bribery was proven. Okay, they say, as well as his general disregard for the rule of law described above, serve collectively to create a substantial risk of flight. And accordingly, the defendant has also failed to demonstrate by clear and convincing evidence that he does not pose a flight risk. So in conclusion, for the foregoing reasons, the defendant's motion should be denied. Now, this is by Jay Clayton, United States Attorney. I think he's filling in for Maureen Comey since she was fired. But that's what the government said on both of those motions. Get the fuck out of here with that bullshit. Okay, so let me see what y'all are saying here. Janine Peterson. I heard they say the judge has not made a decision yet, but more than likely, if the prosecutor is saying no, the judge will go along. Well, I mean, typically I wouldn't just say that's the case, but I will just say that only because, as they have demonstrated in their response, the government, this is the same regurgitated request minus the RICO, beating the RICO part. So why wouldn't the judge continue saying no? Because there's nothing new here. There's nothing new that wasn't already addressed in previous denials of the bond. So, right. Yes, please like, share, and subscribe. Nia X said Diddy is doing the touching, and he's doing it all. Travis, hello, Trav, hello. Child, he needs to be under some jail. Actually, he does. Trav says, I wonder if that was the chef. She was supposed to take the stand, and prosecution told her day of that they wouldn't bring her on the stand. What was the chef? What chef are you talking about? I mean, I know what chef you're talking about as far as the one that didn't testify, but what context does this in with what I'm talking about? I must have missed something. Yes, come on, higher sentence. They should raise the guidelines. I agree. Then again, I heard Trump is thinking of pardoning him. Yeah, you know what? I talked about that as well, about Trump. And I think, if anything, he might be teasing it, and he's basically spiting the Comeys. Maureen Comey, they fired her. I think that has more to do with the Epstein stuff than anything else. And also the fact that, Trump is petty like that, right? He already fired her father as soon as he could, because the father was coming after Trump, as he should have been. But I feel like if the pardon, I don't know if he'll actually, I don't know. It's hard to say because Trump is unpredictable. So, and he's also somebody you wouldn't doubt who would pardon somebody like Diddy. But at the same time, does he want that as, I don't know. It's hard to really gauge that. Oh, the redacted parts. Okay. Oh, right. You're right. Because they had the evidence. They didn't present it because she didn't end up taking the stand. I hear what you got. I hear what you're saying. It could be anything, though. It could be. They seem to have held back a lot of evidence and witnesses for whatever reason, I guess to save time. But yeah, get the fuck out here with that bullshit. Okay, so let's get to, I don't have nothing else on this. So the government said what they said. Basically, you're full of shit. Nothing is, you've done nothing with this but waste our time. And also with regard to wanting a whole new trial, it's kind of like, stop downplaying what he's being convicted of. These two convictions are very serious. And, it did come from racist beginnings, which a lot of the laws that are in place have, right? However, I believe it was at some point reworked somewhat to come after traffickers. So it's a fitting charge for Diddy. But to blow it off as if it's some just little funky little misdemeanor or something, it's not the case. And that would be very foolish of them to do. So we're waiting on the judge. Excuse me. We're waiting on the judge. The judge has both responses for both of these motions. And so we're waiting on orders on both motions, on bond and on. Now, of course, should he take seriously the request for acquittal and or a new a retrial, there would be no bond because he would be released. There's no reason to hold him. If the judge says, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and acquit you on these 2-man act charges, you're free to go. Because what else would he be held on? That's the only thing holding him. And they also wanted it like scrubbed from his record. They they want it to all go away. So they want a acquittal They want probably the what is that called? Expungement. They probably want apologies from everybody, public apologies. But yeah, they're doing too much with this. But we'll see what the judge says. So let's move over to Billboard real quick. This was just posted today. I just came across this not long before coming live, but this is an interview apparently that he had with Billboard, King Combs. King Combs talks Diddy, Verdict, and Ye produced Never Stop EP. And I think that's really all this is promotion for his music. Because where did the music, has anybody heard this music? I haven't even listened to it when they show clips on Instagram or wherever. I refuse to, I always click the mute button. I don't want to hear it. But I haven't heard nothing about it. I haven't heard anybody talking about it. I don't listen to regular radio typically, but usually there's clips online of, things that are, it should have gone viral. Something should have gone viral about that song. Kanye West and Diddy's son did a song while he was being, while I think this happened right before the jury went into deliberation, but he's in the thick of a trial, a very serious trial. And these two do some music and nobody's talking about it. It probably sucked. It sucked. But okay, let's get into this interview. They say Diddy's son opens up about his late mother and having to deal with the effects of his father's highly publicized trial. This is by some Angie Diaz. All right. So this is a picture of him arriving at trial, they say. He looks a mess to me. They say arrives for his father's trafficking and racketeering trial at Manhattan Federal Court on June 30th. This is where this picture is from. Getting off that Sprinter, man. All right. So they say King Combs is relieved that his father's trial is over. The son of Sean Diddy Combs, who was recently found not guilty of trafficking and racketeering, but guilty of illegal prostitution, for which he is awaiting sentencing. See, that's again, I think, downplaying the Mann Act. Guilty of illegal prostitution. Isn't all prostitution illegal? Okay. So he sat down with Billboard over Zoom to talk about his 7-song EP, Never Stop, executive produced by Ye, formerly known as Kanye West, and the past year he's had as his father was in jail awaiting trial. Once the verdict was in, ABC News caught up with King Combs outside of Manhattan Courthouse, where he was notably in high spirits and expressed positivity. Oh, maybe there is a video. Where is the video? Okay. It says express positivity, which will be a common theme in our interview. In quotes, it says, "We love y'all. We love everybody watching. I'm so happy," he said. Combs told the outlet, "Pop's coming home. God bless the whole world." Combs has songs dedicated to both of his parents on his Never Stop EP that he dropped last month. The song Kim is about his late mother, Kim Porter, who passed away unexpectedly at 47 years old in 2018. Features lines like, "When it rains, I feel your pain. It got my vision cloudy, trying to keep my head up, but that's water. But that water, it feel like I'm drowning." And on the track Diddy Free, about his incarcerated father, he raps, "Tired of niggas speaking on the family. Niggas claim they brothers, but they can't be." The project also features Ye on the track People Like Me and his daughter Northwest on the intro Lonely Roads. And then they say, here's the interview about the project with Ye and his family, and where his family, he and his family go from here. So Billboard says or asks, "So it's been an interesting year for you. I know your father is still waiting on his sentencing, but how do you feel now that the trial is over and the verdict is in?" He says, "I feel good. The whole family, we feel good. We just, humbly just waiting for the sentencing and waiting for Pops to come home. We got good expectations. My new tape, Never Stop, is out right now. It's going crazy. I'm happy to be here with Billboard. Thank y'all for having me." How ridiculous. Okay, so he's talking such serious matters here about his father and the situation. But he want to promote everything. Is he going to say that about after everything he answers? My new tape never stop out right now. It's going crazy. So they say, how did the tape come together? How did Ye get involved? Shout out Ye too. He reached out to me during a time where, a lot was going on. Probably the worst times in my life. And he reached out to lend support, and we talked about a Sean John collab. A lot of people may not know we been was gonna do a Sean John collab. Then we was gonna work on some music and stuff, but we never got a chance to. So we started talking about the Sean John collab, and he said he wanted to do a 5-song EP with me. And then from there, I was like, yo, it's a no-brainer, of course. And we just made it happen. And whose idea was it to have North on the intro? Yeah, it was actually his idea. No shit. She was just in the studio one day. We was at the warehouse studio, and she was just real eager to work and real eager to hop on a track. It came out dope. I'm sure she was real eager. She was probably also real annoying. I'm just saying, I love the kids, but I know how that could be, especially if you're in the studio trying to get your work in. Okay. They also asked where there's a line where you're like, when they needed our help, they didn't have to ask for it. Do you feel like you and your family were betrayed by certain friends during this process? I wouldn't say betrayed, but Ye definitely showed love and showed support when it was needed. And it definitely was a little quiet out there, but I wouldn't say betrayed. Because you do mention the no Diddy phrase on pick a side. I imagine that that's a phrase that like bothered you. Did seeing it take off online affect you in any way? He said, I never really heard it in person. I seen it on Instagram and stuff like that. That's about it. I think that's what they mean. Like, how do you feel seeing it online? They didn't say, I'd imagine hearing a phrase like that bothers you. It says, I'd imagine a phrase like that bothers you. So he just basically avoided the question. He didn't say whether it bothered him or not. He just said where he saw it. Interesting. So how does that stuff change now? Because people kind of left your pops for dead, and you came out with pick a side trying to respond to things. He said, I think now that the truth is getting out and pops is on the way home, God willing. I think we need to stay with positivity, spread love. I just hope all the hate and all the negative stuff is past us, and we can move forward with the just love and good vibes. That's what we're here to do. Never stop. I get vulnerable on this tape a little bit, but for the most part, it's just good music for people to feel good to and get through whatever they're going through. Oh, I know he was coached on this because he sounds like Brother Love, trying to do all the spread love and all that, which is great, but you shouldn't just be using that when you're in a pickle. They asked, do you regret releasing that track? You had some lines in there that had people talking. He said, just creative expression, but like I said, sometimes you can speak from emotional places. Let the truth come out. Sometimes it's better. There's a track named after your mom where you mentioned that she cried during one of your first performances. He said that was a theme with my mom. Every time she see me do something, even if it was something little, she would start tearing up, start crying. Especially when I performed, she would always cry. You mentioned that you didn't know the difference whenever you watched her cry. How did she react when you told her you wanted to be a rapper? She was just proud of me and really excited. She was my number one fan. There would be times where I would perform in front of her, like in the bathroom and stuff, like getting ready, showing her what I'm going to do. And she would just start crying, like bawling out. And for me, it was just confusing. That's why I didn't know the difference. I didn't really understand. What advice did she give you that you still think about and cherish? Some advice she gave me that I still think about is to follow my dreams. The album title is called, yo, check out my album, Never Stop. It's going crazy. The The album title is called Never Stop. It's one of my mottos I kind of get from her too, because she always taught me to be myself and just keep going. In life, there's going to be a lot of obstacles, a lot of people trying to doubt you, a lot of people trying to push you in different ways, and just to stay focused and do what I want to do. How do you guys plan on moving forward once the sentencing comes in? Like I said, we feel like just moving forward with positive vibes, love. Me, my tape just dropped. Yo, check out my new tape. Never Stop. Going crazy. I got videos dropping. My sister's got a clothing line coming out. My brother Quincy's into acting. Justin's business. My little sister Chance. She's in college right now, going to NYU. Baby Love is growing up. So yeah, just, continuing to live life and just bring positive vibes to the world. I think that's just the main focus. You're in town visiting your pops, right? Have you gotten a chance to see him yet? Yeah, I saw him. Of course, it wasn't in the ideal place. Was it in person, or was it like a video call? In person. We dapped up and all that. At least it's not like behind the wall, but it's definitely not it. Any advice that he gave you while he was inside this past year? You came out with pick a side, trying to fight back at the narrative a bit. It was really just to be positive and not let everything that's going on get to me. And don't react off emotion. Just be me and do what's true to myself. Do you think Bad Boy and Diddy brand can bounce back from this? Yeah, for sure. Of course he's going to say that. We're definitely going to keep going. Like I said, never stop. So he basically just bit off of Diddy with Can't Stop, Won't Stop and said never stop. He just we can't stop, won't stop. Oh, Lord. Then he says we can't stop, won't stop, and we're going to just continue to spread love and hopefully receive that back. What you got going on in New York, and now that you've seen your pops, you're going to go stay out here for the weekend? Yeah, we're here in the city, but I'm going to just be here working, cooking up some new heat, cooking up a video. Billboard might have to come get the behind the scenes. Never Stop dropped about a month ago. What other plans do you have in store? And they're like, okay, that's old. What else you got? After this, we never gonna stop. We're gonna keep going, keep dropping hits. We got some videos coming out for this tape. I can't tell y'all which one, so it's a surprise. We're gonna keep it going. Yo, check out my new tape. Never stop. Is there anything else you want to talk about or add? He says, Goodfellas is my new record label. We're going to go crazy starting my entrepreneurship at an all-time high. Also, want to say I love all the supporters and fans who stuck with us through this hard time, through this dark time, who stream never stop. All the people who showing love, spreading love. That's what it's all about. And I want to say thank y'all. Love y'all so much. Thank you, Billboard. Yeah, never stop. Out right now. Goodfellas, Bad Boy, CYN. Nice try, Bucko. No, but that was just one big ad for his label, for his new tape, and for all of the businesses that all the kids now have to endeavor because they have to. Except for Chance, who I think her mother has a good head on her shoulders and made sure baby girl went on to college. Not to say college is, everybody has to go to college, but I'm just saying she seems like she got her head on straight and she wants to take her time getting out into the world and continue her education. There's nothing wrong with that. Travis said, take that. Juti, spread love. It's great when you mean it. He keeps stirring shit, so forgive me for not buying it. I don't buy it either. While Wayne said King Combs needs his mother, Kim Porter. Yeah. Like, share, subscribe. Absolutely. If you just came in, please check out. Yeah, just go on the replay if you just came in. But yeah, I think that's all I got really for today. But like, seriously, how do y'all feel about all of this bullshit? Can you believe, like, I don't know. I can't even imagine being King Combs and having to be out front, and he has to do these types of interviews. He can't not do this stuff. You know, their livelihood is at risk. That father there is spending up all the money on the legal stuff, because not even just this team he has for this trial. There's other cases that are being dealt with and that lawyers are working on, other lawyers, right? So my reaction is and was to all of this, even that interview that I just read.
From white, these rich black fuckers trying to do high, oh Lord, after everything to eat on over, I really want you to come true. Like, what would I be without you?
Yes. All right, Log, listen, enjoy the rest of your Friday and your weekend. Make sure you are subscribed, because I may come back. I'm definitely coming back, but I mean, I may come back this weekend. And there's so much I haven't been talking about that I want to talk about. It was good seeing y'all today. Peace and love to everybody. And remember, be the love and change and everything else you want to see in the world. You be that first, right? And also take care of yourself. Please and thank you. Much love. Bye.